today's deep dive. We're so glad you were joining us today because we have something completely different lined up for you.
Oh, we absolutely do.
Yeah, I should probably warn you right out of the gate here. The subject matter today is incredibly messy.
Very messy.
And I mean that in the most literal sense possible. It is grotesque. It is highly unusual. But if you look closely, it is also surprisingly profound and honestly just absolutely hilarious.
It really is. It pushes the boundaries of storytelling, I think. When you first look at the source material, it really feels like a prank.
Right.
But as you dig into it, you realize there is a staggering amount of narrative depth hidden beneath all that crude humor.
Our source material today was uploaded by a YouTube channel called Forgotten Vinyl, and the album is titled Bobo Bojangles Live at the Bingo Club.
Quite a title.
Yeah, and on the surface, if you just glance at the lyrics, this is an album entirely dedicated to a man who aggressively and repeatedly soils himself in public.
Which sounds like pure shock value. But our mission today is to look past that surface layer. What we actually have here is an epic, almost Shakespearean tale of hubris.
Yes.
We are looking at a masterclass in terrible dietary choices and fundamentally the human inability to break free from toxic cycles.
Exactly. We are going to explore the tragic, absurd, and recurring downfall of Mr. Bojangles.
Yeah.
And trust me, by the end of this deep dive, you are going to be asking yourself some fairly intense questions about your own life choices and the environments you put yourself in.
You really will.
But to understand Bobo's plight, we first have to understand his universe. The entire narrative orbits around a single chaotic establishment, which is the Bingo Club.
The Bingo Club is a fascinating setting because it's not just a place where seniors go to dab numbers on a card.
No, not at all.
Based on the lyrics of this album, this venue is the social epicenter of his entire world. It hosts everything.
Everything. We're talking Saturday night dances, high-stakes poker nights, kids' Halloween pumpkin carving parties, and even elaborate Christmas events where they send someone dressed as Santa up onto the actual roof.
It's the beating heart of his community.
But tragically, it is also the site of our protagonist's ultimate kryptonite. And that brings us to the menu.
Oh, the menu.
Specifically the beef. The Bingo Club apparently serves a few variations of this absolute poison. There's a 5-cent beef platter, a hot beef casserole, and sometimes...
The worst part.
Yeah, perhaps most terrifyingly of all. The beef is just advertised as free.
And that beef is the catalyst for every single disaster chronicled in the album. It is the absolute nexus of his suffering.
The way Bobo Bojangles describes the aftermath of eating this meat is just incredibly visceral.
It really is.
After he eats it, he describes the resulting bodily outpouring as an evil hot liquid stew and complains that he is pumping hot coffee, but it sure ain't sweet.
The physiological descriptions he uses are incredibly vivid. He sings about how his stomach's like a walnut and his asshole's like a coin as he struggles to comprehend the sheer volume of his illness.
Yeah.
He actually stops to ask the universe. There's gallons of it, man. Where's it all coming from?
I have to ask the obvious question here. If he knows this 5-cent beef is going to completely destroy his poor colon, why on earth does he keep eating it? Every time he walks into the Bingo Club, he goes straight for the beef.
What we are looking at is a textbook example of a behavioral loop.
Okay.
To break that down, simply think about the habits we all fall into. You know how you might find yourself doom scrolling on your phone at 2 a.m. even though you are exhausted and you know you're going to be miserable at work the next day?
Oh, absolutely.
You do it anyway because it provides an immediate, low-effort comfort in that specific moment. Bobo has zero impulse control. And the Bingo Club represents an environment where he feels entirely comfortable, so his guard completely drops. He repeatedly gambles with his gastrointestinal health, lured in by the incredibly cheap price or just the sheer convenience, and he loses every single time.
Every time.
It is a compulsion he cannot break.
Let's look at how this pride and compulsion actually plays out, because the hubris just keeps escalating.
Yeah.
The album is essentially a series of tragic stories, and each one is somehow more humiliating than the last. We can start with his public fall from grace on the dance floor.
The dance floor is such a classic literary setup for a character's downfall.
Oh, yeah.
You have an audience, you have movement, and you have the ego involved in trying to impress a romantic partner.
And a messy downfall at that. Picture this. It's Saturday night at the Bingo Club. Bobo admits in the lyrics that he has been drinking straight for 16 hours.
16 hours.
His bladder is full, his mind is gone, and then his lovely lady asks him to dance. He gets up, starts shaking his thing, and as he puts it, things took a soggy turn in my pants.
The linguistic choices he makes to describe his own degradation are genuinely poetic. He doesn't just say he's embarrassed. He elevates his shame into art.
He calls himself a wet disgrace like a tramp in France. He says his junk is soaked like a water plant. But the situation spirals. A literal pool of his own urine spreads out on the dance floor.
Oh, boy.
He panics and tries to make a run for the exit. And ironically, he notes that he was thinking maybe he'd just go get some of that beef to feel better.
Of course he was.
But he slips in his own puddle, falls hard, and sprains his ankle.
It is a perfect storm of terrible decisions. The 16 hours of drinking laid the physical groundwork for the disaster, but his pride...
Yeah, his pride.
That desperate need to show off and dance with his lady when he knew he was at his physical limit was the actual trigger.
But it's not just the dance floor where his pride gets the better of him. The stakes get significantly higher when money is involved. When I was reading the transcript for the poker night track, I couldn't believe the level of hubris.
It's wild.
They were serving hot beef casserole. Bobo is sitting in his lucky chair. He is out 2 whole bucks, and he is feeling 10 feet tall.
He is in a state of supreme confidence. He is on top of the world, untouched.
Untouchable, until he decides to risk a fart to clear his head.
The ultimate devastating gamble.
He loses everything in an instant. He sings, "I took a chance on my underpants, but my ass went all in."
Wow.
He drops his load right near the snack buffet. The dealer drops the cards in sheer horror. The entire room goes dead silent, and Bobo is banished. He actually has to go out back and literally burn his pants in shame.
But look at how he processes that trauma and attributes blame. Throughout these songs, he oscillates wildly. In one breath, he'll show a glimmer of self-awareness, admitting he has only got myself to blame.
Yeah.
But then, almost immediately, he shifts into passive victimhood. He claims he should have held it in, but the devil rolled the dice.
So he's completely passing the buck.
This is what literary critics call an unreliable narrator. It's a character who tells you a story, but you can't entirely trust their version of events because they are skewing reality to protect their own ego.
Makes sense.
Think about it like being late to work. You might tell your boss the traffic was an absolute nightmare today, completely leaving out the fact that you hit snooze 4 times and left the house 30 minutes late.
Right.
You recognize the outcome being late, but you externalize the cause to protect yourself. Bobo refuses to take accountability. It wasn't his terrible choice to eat the beef and risk a bodily function at a poker table. It was the devil. It was bad luck.
That makes perfect sense when you frame it like that. Now, amidst all this chaos and externalized blame, we have to talk about the unsung hero of this album.
We really do.
He is not going through this alone. There is a secondary character in this epic era, his lovely lady.
Her presence throughout this endless ordeal is nothing short of miraculous. The endurance she displays is staggering.
I was crying laughing when I got to the track about their bizarre pants swap. Bobo and his lady are hanging out at the bingo club as usual. He claims that in a kinky turn of events, she suggests they swap pants for the evening.
Right.
Bobo, declaring himself an open-minded kind of guy, readily agrees to this.
But he completely ignores the physical reality of putting on clothing that is drastically smaller than his own body, especially given his dietary habits.
He jams himself into his lady's pants. They are predictably devilishly tight. They squeeze his guts all night long, and because of the intense physical pressure on his abdomen, he has another massive accident right there on the dance floor.
While wearing her pants.
And the kicker, he blames her for it. He sings, "It was your idea for me to wear them. Why does this keep happening to me?"
There's that externalization of blame again. He actively chooses to put on pants that are cutting off his circulation, eats the food that makes him sick, but it's her fault because it was her idea to swap clothes.
Unbelievable.
But she often acts as the only voice of reason in his life. In other songs, he admits he should have listened to my lovely lady, who clearly and repeatedly warns him to stay away from the beef.
She certainly tries to warn him, especially on Valentine's Day. He actually attempts to do something nice and romantic for her. He buys her a bouquet of roses.
That's nice.
But because he is Bobo Bojangles, he decides to pair this romantic gesture with a romantic dinner consisting of the 5-cent beef platter.
Oh, no.
He even admits the beef smells funky, but he justifies eating it because the price made sense.
A truly catastrophic cost-benefit analysis. So he leans in to smell the beautiful roses he bought her. The pollen from the flowers makes him sneeze violently, and the sheer force of that sneeze, combined with the structural instability caused by the 5-cent beef, results in a total blowout.
Valentine's Day is instantly ruined.
And this is where we see a shift in their dynamic.
Yeah.
How does she react to this particular disaster?
Well, she establishes a very firm boundary. She gives him the death stare and delivers this incredible cutting line. Romance ain't supposed to smell. Take your stomach and go to hell.
I love that line.
He tries to laugh it off, tries to be smooth, and says he'll just go clean up, but she completely shuts him down.
Yeah.
He is relegated to sleeping on the couch.
Yeah.
Though to his credit, he sings an entire melancholic chorus about how even though he soiled his underpants, his love for her is still pure.
We've all been there, haven't we? Think about a time you had to look at someone you care about deeply, a friend, a partner, a family member, and draw a hard line because they kept self-sabotaging. The lovely lady represents that ultimate boundary setter. She loves him, she stays with him, but she refuses to validate his destructive behavioral loops anymore. She forces him to the couch. It adds a very grounded, deeply human element to an otherwise absurd narrative.
You say grounded, but this is actually where the story shifts from just a series of bad choices to something completely detached from reality.
That's true.
Halfway through this album, the hubris hits such a critical mass that the fundamental laws of physics stop applying to Mr. Bojangles.
We enter the territory of magical realism here.
We really do.
And the holiday tracks are where this really shines. Let's talk about the Halloween incident. I want you to imagine the sheer apocalyptic absurdity of this scene.
It's vivid.
He's at a kid's pumpkin carving party at the bingo club. Naturally, he eats the free beef. His guests start going wild. He realizes he cannot make it to the bathroom in time, so he improvises.
Oh, boy.
He grabs a carved pumpkin right out of the hands of a child, drops his pants, and attempts to use it as an emergency toilet.
I can take over the storytelling here because the climax of the scene is just a horror movie. He sits on this pumpkin, but he forgets that it's a jack-o'-lantern. It has face holes carved into it. So as he blasts his evil hot liquid stew into the gourd, it shoots straight out. The eyes and the mouth of the pumpkin spring across the room.
Unbelievable.
To make matters worse, there is still a lit candle inside. He accidentally burns his backside on the flame. Panic slips and falls with his full weight onto the pumpkin,
Causing it to explode like a shitty pinata covering everyone in the room. He explicitly notes in the lyrics that one old grandma in the corner nearly died from the shock of what she witnessed.
It's an image of total community devastation.
And he doesn't spare Christmas either. He's up on the roof of the bingo club, dressed as Santa Claus. He slips ass, falls ass first down the chimney, and gets wedged in tight.
Just stuck there.
The sheer shock of being stuck causes him to soil himself inside the chimney shaft. The kids are gathered down below around the fireplace waiting for gifts, and instead, as Bobo sings, they got shit falling from the sky.
What a visual.
When they finally pull him out, his lovely lady just looks at him in disgust and says, "You promised to have a turkey for lunch, but I'm guessing you had the beef."
She always knows the root cause. But I want to pause and explain what I meant earlier by magical realism.
Sure.
This is a literary term for when a story is grounded in a perfectly normal, mundane setting, like a community bingo club, but suddenly elements of fantasy or the impossible are introduced, and the characters just accept it as normal.
Right.
We see this perfectly in the escalation of his issues. We've moved from simply ruining a pair of pants to ruining major community holidays, and then he literally defies gravity.
When I was reading the lyrics for this next part, I actually had to do a double take.
Yeah.
He's playing a regular bingo game. He eats the beef, his stomach turns, and he soils his pants, blasting out like a hurricane.
Yeah.
But the volume and the sheer force of the output are so intense that he physically begins to rise into the air.
He is literally elevated by his own mess.
He lifts a full foot off his bingo chair. He is hovering. His lady looks at him in absolute horror and asks, "Is your ass getting taller, or could it be my eyes?" It's like you've grown a foot since we started this bingo game.
If we look at this through an analytical lens, the levitation is a brilliant metaphor.
How so?
When we ignore our problems, when we refuse to address our toxic traits or our bad habits, they don't just stay hidden quietly in the background, they grow.
They really do.
They accumulate pressure until they literally elevate us into bizarre, unmanageable situations where everyone around us can clearly see the mess we've made.
That is surprisingly profound for a song about a man pooping himself a foot into the air.
I know.
But his mental state deteriorates just as much as his physical state. In another track, he experiences total amnesia. He wakes up the morning after a bingo club bender with soiled pants, a brand new tattoo, and absolutely zero memory of the night before.
Zero memory.
He spends the entire track genuinely baffled, desperately asking the universe, who shit in my pants?
He actually tries to deduce the culprit. He sings, I think I'd remember if it was me, that kind of thing sticks in your memory.
He blames a phantom pantsoiler. He completely detaches from his own actions.
This is a psychological defense mechanism known as dissociation.
Right.
When a person's actions cause a level of shame or trauma that is too intense for their ego to handle, the mind basically builds a firewall. It cuts off the memory to protect the self.
Wow.
This is the final tragic stage of his behavioral loop. He has reached a point of total denial. His psychological buffer is so thick that he genuinely cannot fathom that he is the architect of his own misery.
We have to talk about the climax of this album. Because everything we've discussed, the dance floor, the poker game, the pumpkin, the levitation, it has all been building to one specific horrifying moment in real time.
The finale.
The outro of the album reveals that everything we've been hearing has been performed live on a stage at the Bingo Club itself.
He is confronting his demons and his community in the very arena where he was repeatedly defeated.
Bobo is on stage with his band, he's singing to the crowd, and he actually pauses the music to offer a heartfelt apology to the audience for previously soiling the dance floor.
It feels like a moment of genuine public reckoning and healing.
But the reckoning is interrupted by his own bodily reality. Because while he is standing on stage actively apologizing for the past, the present catches up to him.
It does.
He stops mid-song. The music halts, and he tragically announces to the crowd, "You will never guess what happened as I'm dancing on this stage. The tiger in my colon has escaped this stinky cage."
He does it again. Live, in front of the entire community.
Right there on stage, he looks at the crowd and says, "I'm sorry, I shit on the stage now. I wish this were a joke." He realizes instantly that refunds are going to be due. The live recording captures the crowd in the front row, getting furious. You can hear them yelling. Bobo turns to his band off mic, absolute panic in his voice, and says, "What are we going to do? We need to split, man. These guys sound like they want to kill us." And he just drops the mic and flees the venue.
It is a devastating, yet completely inevitable conclusion to his story. And honestly, this brings the narrative right back to you, the listener.
What should we be taking away from this incredibly wild ride?
While I sincerely hope none of us are ever performing at a local venue with an escaped tiger in our colon, the core metaphor holds a lot of weight.
Sure does.
We all need to take a step back and ask ourselves, what is your personal bingo club? What is that specific environment or situation where you consistently let your guard down and make terrible decisions? And more importantly, what is your 5-cent beef?
That is the million-dollar question right there.
Think about it. What is that toxic thing? Maybe it's a bad habit. You can't shake a toxic relationship you keep returning to. Or a terrible coping mechanism when you're stressed that you keep ordering off the menu of life. It's the thing that promises cheap, easy, immediate satisfaction, but always without fail leaves you dealing with a massive, humiliating mess. This entire grotesque narrative is a hilarious, extreme reminder to identify those cycles.
Definitely.
At some point, you have to stop blaming the devil. You have to stop blaming the tight pants, and you have to finally stop ordering the proverbial cheap beef.
Stop eating the beef.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up, there is one final lingering thought I want to leave you with today. Something for you to mull over the next time you find yourself stuck in one of those bad cycles.
What's that?
We established that this entire album is a live recording at the Bingo Club, right?
We did. The audience is right there with him.
That means a group of people in that community willingly bought tickets. They left their homes, they sat down in the front row, and they willingly listened to an entire musical set performed by a man whose absolute only topic of conversation is how he routinely and explosively defecates all over their local establishment.
That's entirely true.
They sat through the dance floor story. They clapped after the poker story. They listened to the Halloween pumpkin disaster right up until the exact moment he did it to them live on stage.
That is a genuinely staggering realization about the enablers in his life.
So I have to ask you, who is really the crazy one here? Is it the man who compulsively keeps eating the bad beef? Or the audience who bought tickets, sat in the splash zone, and watched him do it? Think about that. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredibly bizarre journey today. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.